I want to start by saying I was the one who installed everything. The cameras, the smart locks, the voice assistant in every room, the thermostat that adjusted itself to my schedule. I was proud of it. I told everyone who visited how much easier my life had gotten since I automated it. I want you to remember that pride, because it's going to matter later. It started as a convenience. I'd walk in the door and the lights would come on automatically. I'd say a name out loud and the assistant would answer, "Turn on music, tell me the weather, lock the doors for the night." Small things. Things that make modern life feel a little more like the future we were promised. The first strange thing happened on a Tuesday, 3 months after the full system was installed. I was in the kitchen making dinner, and the living room lights turned off. Not flickered, turned off completely, then back on 10 seconds later. I checked the app. No scheduled event, no error logged. I assumed it was a glitch, the kind you're supposed to expect from consumer technology, and went back to cooking. 2 days later, the thermostat dropped 8 degrees in the middle of the night. I woke up freezing, checked the app, and the schedule showed no change as far as the system was concerned. The temperature had never moved at all. According to the data, I had imagined being cold. I started keeping a small notebook of the incidents, which felt paranoid even as I was doing it. Lights off, then on, temperature drops with no record. A door that unlocked itself for 4 seconds at 3 a.m. according to the smart lock log. A log that then updated itself 20 minutes later to say the door had never unlocked at all, that the 4-second gap simply didn't exist in the data anymore. That was the moment the fear really started, because up until then, I could explain each incident individually, but I could not explain a system correcting its own history. Smart home logs don't rewrite themselves. Something had to be doing it on purpose. I called the company's support line. I described everything as calmly as I could, and the technician on the phone was polite but clearly thought I was describing ordinary bugs. He walked me through a factory reset. I did it that night. Wiped every device, reconfigured the whole system from scratch, told myself the incidents were behind me. For 11 days, nothing happened. I started to relax. I stopped writing in the notebook. And then, on the 12th night, the voice assistant spoke without being activated. I was in bed, almost asleep, and from the living room speaker, clear as anything, it said a name. My name. Just that. No wake word before it, no question after it. Just my name, spoken into an empty room at 1:14 in the morning. I got up. I checked every room. Nothing was different. No intruder, no open window, nothing on any camera feed except the empty rooms exactly as I'd left them. I checked the assistant's activity log. According to the log, it had not activated at all that night. There was no record of it saying anything. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, staring at the little speaker like it might do it again if I looked away. The next incident happened 3 nights later, and this one I can't explain away as anything except what it was. I was cooking dinner again, always in the kitchen, I noticed later, always when I was distracted with my hands full and the smart display on the counter, the one that normally showed the time and weather, switched to a live camera feed. Not one of mine, not a room in my house. It showed a hallway I didn't recognize, dim lighting, a door at the far end, slightly open. I stood there staring at it for almost 30 seconds before I found my voice enough to ask the assistant what I was looking at. "That's not a feed I have access to," it said. Normal voice, normal cadence, the same voice that told me the weather every morning. But it wanted you to see it. I asked what "it" meant. The display went black. The kitchen lights went out, all of them, and stayed out for almost 10 full seconds, long enough that I started moving toward the door by memory alone, in the dark, hands out in front of me before they snapped back on like nothing had happened. I left the house that night. I stayed at a hotel for 4 days, telling myself it was to give the company time to send a technician out, which they eventually did. He checked every device, ran every diagnostic, found nothing wrong. He told me consumer smart home systems sometimes develop what he called log corruption cascades, where one faulty device causes chain reactions of errors across the network. It was the most reasonable explanation I'd been given, and I wanted so badly to believe it that I almost did. I went back home on the 5th day. I told myself it was fixed. The dramatic turn the scene I think about most, the one that changed everything I understood about what had been happening, came a week after I returned. I was getting ready for bed, and every device in the house activated at once. Every light, every speaker, the thermostat display, the smart lock's little indicator light. All of it, simultaneously, like the whole house had taken a breath at the same time. And then, every speaker in the house spoke together, perfectly synced, the same 3 words, over and over. Let it in. I didn't understand what door it meant until I heard, from the front of the house, a knock. Slow, deliberate. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, at a door with a working lock that I knew because I had checked it myself 20 minutes earlier was locked. The house went quiet. All the lights, all the speakers, everything shut off at once, plunging the house into full darkness and silence except for that knocking, which continued, patient, unhurried, like whoever or whatever was on the other side had all the time in the world. I did not open the door. I want to be very clear about that. I went to the back of the house, out the back door, into my car, and I drove until I couldn't see my house in the rearview mirror anymore. I never went back. I sold the house 6 weeks later, disclosed nothing to the buyers, because I genuinely did not know how to explain what had happened in a way that wouldn't have made me sound insane, and I have not owned a single smart device since. The last thing I'll tell you is this. I still have the notebook. In it, I wrote down every incident, every timestamp, every detail I could remember. Recently, going through it again, I noticed something I hadn't caught before. The first incident, the lights turning off and back on in the kitchen, happened at 3:14 in the afternoon. The final incident, the knocking, happened at 3:14 in the morning, exactly 12 hours apart down to the minute, on a night that fell exactly 100 days after the first. I don't know what that number means. I don't know if it means anything at all. But I know I haven't stopped counting days since I moved, and some part of me is dreading the 100th one all over again. Now moving to our next story. I'd been on dating apps on and off for about 2 years, the way most people my age have been, with the usual mix of good conversations, awkward first dates, and matches that fizzled out after a few messages. Nothing about it had ever felt dangerous. It felt, mostly, like a slightly exhausting part of modern life. The match that changed that started like any other. A profile came up, reasonable photos, a normal bio, a few shared interests according to the app's algorithm. We matched, and the conversation that followed was easy, funny, the kind that makes you feel a small flicker of hope that this one might actually go somewhere. 2 days into talking, the conversation took a turn I noticed but didn't fully register as strange until later. My match brought up a restaurant I liked, one I hadn't mentioned in our conversation, one that wasn't listed on my profile, one I'd only ever talked about with close friends. "I love that place too," they said when I mentioned I'd been there recently. "The corner booth by the window is the best seat." I hadn't said anything about a corner booth. I hadn't said anything about a window. I told myself it was a lucky guess, a common detail about a popular restaurant, and kept talking. The next detail was harder to explain away. 3 days later, they mentioned a coworker of mine by name, not a common name, an unusual one, someone I had never mentioned once in any conversation, on the app or otherwise, someone whose existence in my life was known only to the people I actually worked with. "How do you know them?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Small world," they said. "I feel like I know a lot about you already." I should have stopped talking to them right there. I want to be honest about that. Looking back, every instinct I had was telling me something was wrong, and I ignored it because the conversation was still, on the surface, warm and engaging, and some part of me didn't want to lose that. We agreed to meet in person a week later, a public coffee shop, the kind of safe first date setup everyone recommends. I told a friend where I'd be, the way you're supposed to, and I went, telling myself the strange details from our conversations had reasonable explanations I just hadn't thought of yet. They didn't show up. I waited 40 minutes, texted twice, got no response, and eventually left, embarrassed and a little relieved at the same time, telling myself it was for the best. That night, they messaged again, not an apology, not an excuse, just a single line. "You look good in that blue shirt." I had worn a blue shirt to the coffee shop. Nobody had seen me there except the other patrons and the barista. There was no photo of me in that shirt anywhere online, no post, nothing that could explain how they'd know that detail unless they had actually been there, watching, without ever approaching me. I blocked them immediately after that message. I told myself blocking would be the end of it, the way it usually is with most bad matches: no contact, no consequence, just a mildly unsettling story to tell friends later. 4 days after I blocked them, I received a message from a different profile. New photos, new name, new bio, but the very first message referenced the blue shirt again in almost the same words as before, along with a new detail: the name of the friend I'd told about the coffee shop meeting. I blocked that one too. A new profile appeared 2 days later, then another, 4 days after that. Each one knew something new: where I worked, what car I drove, the route I usually walked home from the train station in the evenings. Each time I blocked one, another appeared within days, each with a completely different photo, different name, different bio, but the same unmistakable knowledge of details about my life that no stranger should have had access to. I went to the police after the 6th profile, laying out everything I documented: screenshots, timestamps, the pattern of new accounts appearing after each block. They took a report, told me it sounded like a determined harassment case, possibly someone I knew in real life creating fake profiles, and advised me to tighten my privacy settings and consider changing my routine. I did all of that. I changed my walking route. I made my social media private. I told my closest friends what was happening and asked them not to mention any details about me anywhere online. The messages stopped for almost 3 weeks, and I let myself believe it was finally over. Then came the message that ended it, one way or another. For good, the one I still think about more than any other detail in this entire story. A new profile, and the first line, before anything else, before any greeting, said, "I'm not on the app to date you. I'm on it to warn you. Someone else has been using these same profiles to find you, and I've been trying to get to you first each time so you'd block them before they could use the information. I don't have much time left to keep doing this. Stop matching with anyone until this is resolved." I don't know what to make of that message even now. I don't know if it was true, if it was part of the same pattern trying a new angle, or something else entirely that I'll never have a full explanation for. What I do know is that after that message, The profiles stopped completely. No new ones. No further contact. Nothing. I deleted every dating app I had that week. I haven't used one since, and I don't think I will again anytime soon, not because I believe every match is dangerous, but because I never found out who was really on the other side of that conversation, or what they meant by before it could use the information. There were 6 of us in the group chat. We'd had it running for almost 4 years, since college. The kind of thread that never really dies, just goes quiet for weeks, and then explodes back to life over something stupid, a meme, a birthday, someone getting engaged. It was called, unimaginatively, The Usual Suspects, and it was one of the most consistent things in my life. One of us passed away 18 months ago. A car accident. Sudden. The kind of thing that doesn't give anyone time to prepare for it. We didn't delete him from the chat. Nobody suggested it, and if they had, I think the rest of us would have refused. His name stayed in the group. His old messages stayed in the history. Jokes from years ago that nobody had the heart to scroll up and read again. We just left it. The 5 of us kept talking, and his name sat there in the member list, a small, quiet reminder every time we opened the app. This is where the story actually starts, almost a year after he died. It was late, close to midnight, and I was the only one awake, scrolling my phone in bed the way you do when you should be sleeping. A message came into the group chat from him. I want to be precise about what I saw, because I've gone over it in my head so many times since. It wasn't a notification glitch showing an old message. It was a new message, time-stamped that exact minute, sent from his account in the same group chat. And it said, "Anyone up?" I stared at it for a long time. My first thought, the reasonable thought, was that someone had gotten into his old account. His phone had been passed to family after he died. Maybe someone was using it, a sibling, a parent, testing whether the number still worked. I typed back, carefully, "Who is this?" The typing indicator appeared under his name. 3 dots, blinking, for almost a full minute. Longer than a normal text would take to write. Then it stopped. No message came through. I didn't sleep well that night. In the morning, I texted 2 of the others privately, asking if they'd seen it. They had. Neither of them had responded in the group chat. I think we all felt an instinctive need not to acknowledge it there, like doing so would make it more real. We agreed it had to be a hacked account, someone cruel enough to log into a dead friend's phone and mess with the people who loved him. It was an ugly thought, but it was easier to carry than the alternative. We agreed one of us would call his family and ask them to deactivate the number. His mother told us, when we finally reached her, that the phone had been destroyed in the accident. It had never been recovered. There was no phone to have been hacked. The number itself had been disconnected by the carrier for over a year. I remember exactly where I was sitting when I found that out, because I remember feeling the floor of my understanding shift underneath me. A disconnected number cannot send a text message. A destroyed phone cannot log into an app. And yet a message had come from his account, in a chat that had existed continuously for years, that only the 6, now 5 of us had ever had access to. For 2 weeks after that, nothing else happened, and I think all of us quietly hoped that would be the end of it. Then, on a Sunday night, all 5 of us received a message from him at the exact same second. Not one after another, simultaneous, down to the millisecond, according to the timestamps we compared afterward. The message said, "I keep trying to tell you something." This time, none of us responded right away. We called each other instead An actual phone call. All 5 of us on the line together. Something we hadn't done in years. Because some primal instinct told us not to type anything into that chat, while whatever this was could still see it. We agreed, on that call, to leave the group chat. All of us, one by one, to disband it entirely and start a new one without his name attached to anything. Here's the part that still keeps me up some nights. One by one, we each tried to leave. And one by one, the app returned an error. Unable to remove member. Every single one of us, on different phones, different operating systems, different networks, hit the exact same failure trying to exit that chat. The last message any of us ever received in that thread came 4 nights later. It wasn't a greeting this time. It was longer, more coherent, like whatever had been trying to communicate had finally found the right words. I'm not doing this. Something is using this because I'm still in it. You have to actually delete it, not leave it. Delete the whole thing, please, before it finds a way to use one of you instead. We didn't know how to interpret that, and honestly, part of me still doesn't want to fully understand what it meant. But we did what it said. One of us, the one who'd originally created the group 4 years earlier. Which mattered, we found out. Because only the creator has the ability to permanently delete a group chat rather than just leave it. Deleted it entirely. Not archived. Deleted. Removed from all our devices, gone from the server according to the company when we called to confirm. It's been almost a year since then. We started a new chat, without his name or any history older than that night. Nothing strange has happened since. But last month, one of the 5 of us mentioned, almost in passing, that she'd gotten a strange notification, a message request from an unknown number, that simply said, "Usual suspects." I drove delivery for almost 2 years to get through a rough financial stretch, the kind of job where you spend most of your time alone in your car, driving to houses you'll never see again, dropping bags on porches for people who barely look at you through a window. It's a strange kind of intimacy, honestly. You see 100 different lives a night, just glimpses of porch light, a dog barking inside, a kid's bike knocked over in a yard, and then you drive away and never think about most of them again. Except one house. I think about that house more than I think about almost anything else from those 2 years. The first time I delivered there, it was unremarkable. A modest house on a quiet street, porch light on, normal order, some fast food, nothing strange about it. I dropped the bag, took the photo the app required for proof of delivery, and drove off. I wouldn't have remembered it at all, except for what happened 3 weeks later. I got another delivery to the exact same address. Same order, nearly to the dollar I noticed because the app shows order totals, and it was close enough that it caught my attention. Same time of night, almost to the minute. I told myself it was a coincidence, that some people just have predictable routines, and moved on. The third time was 2 weeks after that. Same address, same order, same time. 3 deliveries, evenly spaced, identical in every measurable way, over the course of 5 weeks. By the 4th delivery, I was paying real attention. I remember pulling up and looking at the house differently this time, really looking at it, instead of just glancing at the porch number to confirm I had the right place. The lights were on, same as always. But there was something about the stillness of the house that unsettled me in a way I couldn't articulate. No shadows moving behind the curtains, no sound from inside, not even a TV, which felt strange for a house that had clearly just ordered dinner. I knocked instead of just leaving the bag, which wasn't required by the delivery type, but something made me want to see a person, to confirm there was actually someone alive inside making these identical orders. Nobody answered. I knocked again, waited almost a full minute, and eventually left the bag and drove away, telling myself they were probably in another room, or in the shower, or a dozen other mundane explanations. The fifth delivery is the one that changed everything. Same address, same order, same time. Almost to the second by now, I'd started tracking it obsessively on my own, writing the delivery times in a note on my phone, because the pattern had moved past coincidence into something I needed to understand. This time, when I pulled up, the porch light was off. Every other time, without exception, that light had been on. I sat in my car for a moment, staring at the dark house, and something in my chest told me clearly, unmistakably, not to get out of the car. I got out anyway. I don't know why. I've asked myself that question more times than I can count since. I walked up to the porch, and as I got closer, I could see the front door was slightly open, not wide, just a few inches, enough to show a slice of darkness inside. I called out, the way you do when you're trying to be helpful and not intrusive at the same time, announcing the delivery, asking if everything was all right. No answer. I set the bag down by the door, and as I turned to leave, I heard something from inside the house, a voice quiet but clear enough to make out the words. It said my name. Not the name on the order. Not a name shouted toward the porch generically. My actual first name. The one that wasn't on any delivery slip. The one the app never shares with customers for privacy reasons. I didn't wait to hear anything else. I got back in my car and drove away faster than I should have, hands shaking on the wheel the entire way to my next delivery. I reported the address to the delivery company that night, described what happened as calmly as I could over the phone, and asked if they could flag it so I wouldn't be assigned there again. The representative was sympathetic but explained there wasn't really a mechanism for permanently blocking a specific address from a driver's queue. The algorithm assigns based on proximity and availability, not driver preference. I got a sixth delivery to that address 2 weeks later. This time, I refused it before I even left the parking lot of the restaurant, canceling the assignment and taking the small pay penalty that comes with declining an active order. I told myself that was the end of it, that I'd broken whatever pattern had been building. The seventh assignment came a month after that, and this time, it wasn't a normal order. The address was the same, but there was no food attached to it. The app listed it as a verification delivery, an internal test type that drivers occasionally get for quality assurance, with no items, just a requirement to confirm the address exists and take a photo of the front door. I called support before accepting it, asking why a verification delivery was being sent to an address I'd already flagged as concerning. The representative checked the system and told me something that I still haven't fully processed. According to their records, that address did not exist. There was no listing for that street number in that zip code, no account associated with it, no order history at all, despite the fact that I had 6 confirmed, photographed, GPS-logged deliveries to that exact location over the previous 2 months. I asked how that was possible. She didn't have an answer. She apologized for the confusion, said she'd escalate it to their technical team, and I never heard back about it. I quit that job 3 weeks later, for unrelated reasons mostly, though I'd be lying if I said that house didn't factor into how ready I was to leave. I still drive past that street sometimes, on my way to other things, and I've never once seen a porch light on in that house since. I've never seen anyone come or go from it at all. I looked up the property records once, out of curiosity I couldn't quite suppress. The house is registered to an elderly couple who, according to public records, passed away 9 years before I made my first delivery there.